All right, hi. I'm reading OSHO today. I'm in the middle of the chapter called The Courage of Love, and this section is not a relationship, but a state of being. So I hope you enjoy. Love is not a relationship. Love is a state of being. It has nothing to do with anybody else. One is not in love, one is love. And of course, when one is love, one is in love, but that is an outcome, a byproduct. That is not the source. The source is that one is love. And who can be love? Certainly, if you are not aware of who you are, you cannot be love. You will be fear. Fear is just the opposite of love. Remember, hate is not the opposite of love, as people think. Hate is love standing upside down. It is not the opposite of love. The real opposite of love is fear. In love, one expands. In fear, one shrinks. In fear, one becomes closed. In love, one opens. In fear, one doubts. In love, one trusts. In fear, one is left lonely. In love, one disappears. Hence, there is no question of loneliness at all. When one is not, how can one be lonely? Then these trees and the birds and the clouds and the sun and the stars are all within you. Love is when you have known your inner sky. The young child is free of fear. Children are born without any fear. If the society can help and support them to remain without fear, can help them to climb the trees and the mountains and swim the oceans and the rivers, if society can help them in every possible way to become adventurers of the unknown, and if the society can create a great inquiry instead of giving them dead beliefs, then the children will turn into great lovers of life, and that is true religion. There is no higher religion than that. Meditate, dance, sing, and go deeper and deeper into yourself. Listen to the birds more attentively. Look at the flowers with awe, wonder. Don't become knowledgeable. Don't go on labeling things. That's what knowledgeability is, the great art of labeling everything, categorizing everything. Meet people, mix with as many people as possible, because each person expresses a different facet of God. Learn from people. Don't be afraid. This existence is not your enemy. This existence mothers you. This existence is ready to support you in every possible way. Trust, and you will start feeling a new upsurge of energy in you. That energy is love. That energy wants to bless the whole existence. Because in that energy, one feels blessed. And when you feel blessed, what else can you do except bless the whole existence? Love is a deep desire to bless the whole existence. This cake is delicious. That's the next section. Love is very rare. To meet a person at his center is to pass through a revolution, because if you want to meet a person at his center, you will have to allow that person to reach to your center also. You will have to become vulnerable, absolutely vulnerable and open. It is risky to allow somebody to reach your center is risky, dangerous, because you never know what that person will do to you. And once all your secrets are known, once your hiddenness has become unhidden, once you are exposed completely, what that other person will do, you never know. The fear is there. That's why we never open. With just an acquaintance, we think love has happened. Peripheries meet, and we think we have met. You are not your periphery. Really, the periphery is the boundary where you end, just the fencing around you. It is not you. The periphery is the place where you end and the world begins. Even husbands and wives who have lived together for many years may just be acquaintances. They may not have known each other, and the more you live with someone, the more you forget completely that the centers have remained unknown. So the first thing to be understood is don't take acquaintance as love. You may be making love, you may be sexually related, but sex is also peripheral. Unless centers meet, sex is just a meeting of two bodies, and a meeting of two bodies is not your meeting. Sex also remains acquaintance. Physical, bodily, but still just an acquaintance. You can allow somebody to enter to your center only when you are not afraid, when you are not fearful. There are two types of living, one fear-oriented, one love-oriented. Fear-oriented living can never lead you into deep relationship. You remain afraid, and the other cannot be allowed to penetrate you to the very core. To an extent, you allow the other, but then the wall comes up and everything stops. The love-oriented person is one who is not afraid of the future, one who is not afraid of the result and the consequence, who lives here and now. Don't be bothered about the result. That is the fear-oriented mind. Don't think about what will happen out of it. Just be here and act totally. Don't calculate. A fear-oriented man is always calculating, planning, arranging, safeguarding. His whole life is lost in this way. I have heard about an old Zen monk. He was on his deathbed. The last day had come, and he declared that on one evening he would be no more. So followers, disciples, friends started coming. He had many lovers. They all started coming. From far and wide, people gathered. One of his disciples, when he heard that the master was going to die, ran to the market. Somebody asked, "The master is dying in his hut. Why are you going to the market?" The old disciple said, "I know that my master loves a particular type of cake, so I am going to purchase the cake." It was difficult to find the cake, but by the evening, somehow he managed. He came running with the cake, and everybody was worried. It was as if the master was waiting for someone. He would open his eyes and look and close his eyes again. When this disciple came, he said, "Okay, so you have come. Where is the cake?" The disciple produced the cake, and he was very happy that the master asked about it. Dying, the master took the cake in his hand, but his hand was not trembling. He was very old, but his hand was not trembling. So somebody asked, "You are so old and you just on the verge of dying. The last breath is soon to leave you, but your hand is not trembling." The master said, "I never tremble because there is no fear. My body has become old, but I am still young, and I will remain young even when the body is gone." Then he took a bite, started munching the cake, and then somebody asked, "What is your last message, master? You will be leaving us soon. What do you want us to remember?" The master smiled and said, "Ah, this cake is delicious." This is a man who lives in the here and now. This cake is delicious. Even death is irrelevant. The next moment is meaningless. This moment, this cake is delicious. If you can be in this moment, this presentness, this plenitude, then only can you love. Love is a rare flowering. It happens only sometimes. Millions and millions of people live in the false attitude that they are lovers. They believe that they love, but that is their belief only. Love is a rare flowering. Sometimes it happens. It is rare because it can happen only when there is no fear, never before. That means love can happen only to very deeply spiritual, religious persons. Sex is possible for all. Acquaintance is possible for all, not love. When you are not afraid, then there is nothing to hide. Then you can be open. Then you can withdraw all boundaries. And then you can invite the other to penetrate you to the very core. And remember, if you allow somebody to penetrate you deeply, the other will allow you to penetrate into himself or herself. Because when you allow somebody to penetrate you, trust is created. When you are not afraid, the other becomes fearless. In your love, fear is always there. The husband is afraid of the wife is afraid of the husband. Lovers are always afraid. Then it is not love. Then it is just an arrangement of two fearful persons depending on each other, fighting, exploiting, manipulating, controlling, dominating, possessing. But it is not love. You can allow love to happen. There is no need for prayer. There is no need for meditation. There is no need for any church, any temple. You can completely forget God if you can love, because through love, everything will have happened to you. meditation, prayer, God, everything will have happened to you. That's what Jesus means when he says God is love. But love is difficult. Fear has to be dropped. And this is the strange thing, that you are so afraid and you have nothing to lose. The mystic Kabir has said somewhere, I look into people. They are so much afraid, but I can't see why, because they have nothing to lose, says Kabir. They are like a person who is naked but never goes to take a bath in the river because he is afraid. Where will he dry his clothes? This is the situation you are in, naked with no clothes, but always worried about the clothes. What have you got to lose? Nothing. This body will be taken by death. Before it is taken by death, give it to love. Whatsoever you have will be taken away. Before it is taken away, why not share it? That is the only way of possessing it. If you can share and give, you are the master. It is going to be taken away. There is nothing you can retain forever. Death will destroy everything. So if you follow me rightly, the struggle is between death and love. If you can give, there will be no death, because anything can be taken away from you. You will have already given it. You will have made it a gift. There can be no death. For a lover, there is no death. For a non-lover, every moment is a death, because every moment something is being snatched away from him. The body is disappearing. He is losing every moment. And then there will be death, and everything will be annihilated. What is the fear? Why are you so afraid? Even if everything is known about you and you are an open book, why fear? How can it harm you? Just false conceptions, just conditionings given by the society, that you have to hide, that you have to protect yourself, that you have to be constantly in a fighting mood, that everybody is an enemy, that everybody is against you. Nobody is against you. Even if you feel somebody is against you, he too is not against you, because everybody is concerned with himself, not with you. There is nothing to fear. This has to be realized before a real relationship can happen. There is nothing to fear. Meditate on it and then allow the other to enter you. Invite the other to enter you. Don't create any barrier anywhere. Become a passage always open, no locks, no doors on you, no closed doors on you. Then love is possible. When two centers meet, there is love. And love is an alchemical phenomenon. Just like hydrogen and oxygen meet, and a new thing, water, is created. You can have hydrogen, you can have oxygen, but if you are thirsty, they will be useless. You can have as much oxygen as you want, as much hydrogen as you like, but the thirst will not go. When two centers meet, a new thing is created. That new thing is love. And it is just like water, the thirst of many, many lives is satisfied. Suddenly you become content. That is the visible sign of love. You become content, as if you have achieved everything. There is nothing to achieve now. You have reached the goal. There is no further goal. Destiny is fulfilled. The seed has become a flower, has to its total flowering. Deep contentment is the visible sign of love. Whenever a person is in love, he is in deep contentment. Love cannot be seen, but contentment, the deep satisfaction around him, his every breath, his every movement, his very being, content. You may be surprised when I say to you that love makes you desireless, but desire comes with discontent. You desire because you don't have. You desire because you think that if you have something, it will give you contentment. Desire comes out of discontentment. When there is love, and two centers have met and dissolved and merged, and a new alchemical quality is born, contentment is there. It is as if the whole existence has stopped, no movement. Then the present moment is the only moment, and then you can say, ah, this cake is delicious. Even death doesn't mean anything to a man who is in love. A world of no boundaries. Love is an opening into a world of no boundaries, into a world that ends nowhere. Love begins but never ends. Sorry, I'm going to say that again. Love begins but ends never. It has a beginning but no end. Remember one thing. Ordinarily, the mind interferes and does not allow love its infinity and its space. If you really love a person, you give him infinite space. Your very being is just a space for him to grow in, to grow with. The mind interferes and tries to possess the person. Then love is destroyed. The mind is very greedy. The mind is greed. The mind is very poisonous. So if one wants to move into the world of love, one has to drop the mind. One has to live without the interference of the mind. The mind is good in its own place. It is needed in the market. It is not needed in love. It is needed when you are preparing a budget, but it is not needed when you are moving into inner space. It is needed when there is mathematics. It is not needed when there is meditation. So the mind has utility, but the utility is for the outside world. For the inner, it is simply irrelevant. So become more and more loving, unconditionally loving. Become love. Become an opening. Just be loving. Birds and trees, earth and stars, men and women, everybody understands it. Black and white, there is only one language. That is the language of the universe. That language is love. So become that language. And once you become love, a totally new world will open for you with no boundaries. Always remember that the mind is the cause of helping people to become closed. The mind is very afraid of opening because the mind exists basically out of fear. The more fearless a person is, the less mind he uses. The more fearful a person, the more he uses the mind. You may have observed that when you are afraid, when there is anxiety, when there is something that troubles you, the mind comes into focus very much. When you are anxious, the mind is there too much. When you are not anxious, the mind is not so much. When everything is going well and there is no fear, the mind lags behind. When things go wrong, the mind simply jumps ahead of you. It becomes the leader. In times of danger, it becomes the leader. The mind is just like the politicians. Adolf Hitler has written in his autobiography, Mein Kampf, that you should always keep the country in fear if you want to remain in the leadership. Keep the country always afraid that the neighbor is going to attack, that there are countries who are designing an attack, that they are preparing to attack. Go on creating rumors. Never leave people at ease, because when they are at ease, they don't bother about the politicians. When people are really at ease, politicians are meaningless. Keep people always afraid. Then the politician is powerful. Whenever there is war, the politician becomes a great man. Churchill or Hitler or Stalin or Mao, they are all products of war. If there were no Second World War, there would be no Winston Churchill and no Hitler and no Stalin. War creates situations, gives opportunities for people to dominate and become leaders. Exactly the same is the politics of the mind. Meditation is nothing but creating a situation where the mind has less and less things to do. You are so unafraid, you are so loving, you are so peaceful, you are so contented with whatsoever is happening that the mind has nothing to say. Then the mind by and by lags behind, and more distance is created. One day the mind completely recedes, then you become a universe. Then you are no more confined to your body, no more confined by anything. You are pure space. That's what God is. God is pure space. Love is the way toward that pure space. Love is the means, and God is the end. That's not even the end of the chapter. Let me see. There's a couple more pages. Ooh, there's a couple more pages. Should I go on? Okay. That was really good. People who are afraid are the people who are capable of tremendous love. Fear is a negative aspect of love. If love is not allowed to flow, it becomes fear. If love is allowed to flow, fear disappears. That's why only in moments of love there is no fear. If you love a person, suddenly fear disappears. Lovers are the only people who are fearless. Even death creates no problem. Only lovers can die in tremendous silence and fearlessness. But it always happens that the more you love, the more you feel fear. That's why women feel more fear than men, because they have more potentiality for love. In this world, there are very few possibilities to actualize your love, so it remains hanging around you. And if any potentiality, I can't say that word, remains hanging, it turns to its opposite. It can become jealousy. That too is part of fear. It can become possessiveness. That too is part of fear. It can become even hatred. That too is part of fear. So be more and more loving. Love unconditionally, and love in as many ways as possible. One can love in millions of ways. One can just love a stranger passing on the road. One can just feel love for him and go on one's way. There is no need to even talk. There is no need to communicate it. One can simply feel and go on one's own way. One can love a rock. One can love the trees. One can love the sky, the stars. One can love the friend, the husband, the children, the father, the mother. One can love in a million ways. Remember, brave does not mean fearless. If somebody is fearless, you cannot call him brave. You cannot call a machine brave. It is fearless. Bravery exists only in the ocean of fear. Bravery is an island in the ocean of fear. Fear is there, but in spite of the fear, one takes the risk. That is bravery. One trembles, one is afraid to go into the dark, and still one goes. In spite of oneself, one goes. That is the meaning of being brave. It does not mean fearless. It means full of fear, but still not being dominated by it. The greatest question arises when you move into love. Then fear grips your soul, because to love means to die into the other. It is death, and a far deeper death than ordinary death. In the ordinary death, only the body dies. In the death of love, the ego dies. To love needs great guts. It needs one to be capable of going into it, in spite of all the fears that will clamor around one. The greater the risk, the greater the possibility of growth, so nothing helps a man more in growth than love. People who are afraid of being in love remain childish, remain immature, unripe. It is only the fire of love that gives you ripeness. Neither easy nor difficult, just natural. This is the next part. Love is a natural state of consciousness. It is neither easy nor difficult. Those words don't apply to it at all. It is not an effort, hence it cannot be easy and it cannot be difficult either. It is like breathing. It is like your heartbeat. It is like blood circulating in your body. Love is your very being, but that love has become almost impossible. The society does not allow it. The society conditions you in such a way that love becomes impossible and hate becomes the only possible thing. Then hate is easy, and love is not only difficult, but impossible. Man has been distorted. Man cannot be reduced to slavery if he is not distorted first. The politician and the priest have been in a deep conspiracy down the ages. They have been reducing humanity to a crowd of slaves. They are destroying every possibility of rebellion in man. And love is rebellion, because love listens only to the heart and does not care a bit about anything else. Love is dangerous because it makes you an individual. And the state and the church, they don't want individuals, not at all. They don't want human beings, they want sheep. They want people who only look like human beings, but whose souls have been crushed so utterly, damaged so deeply, that it seems almost irreparable. And the best way to destroy man is to destroy his spontaneity of love. If man has love, there can't be nations. Nations exist on hate. The Indians hate the Pakistanis. The Pakistans hate the Indians. Only then can these two countries exist. If love appears, boundaries will disappear. If love appears, then who will be a Christian, and then who will be a Jew? If love appears, religions will disappear. If love appears, who is going to go to the temple? For what? It is because love is missing that you are searching for God. God is nothing but a substitute for your missing love, because you are not blissful, because you are not peaceful, because you are not ecstatic. You are searching for God. Otherwise, who bothers? Who cares? If your life is a dance, God has already been attained. The loving heart is full of God. There is no need for any search. There is no need for any prayer. There is no need to go to any temple, to any priest. Hence the priest and the politician, these two are the enemies of humanity. They are in a conspiracy because the politician wants to rule your body and the priest wants to rule your soul. And the secret is the same: destroy love. Then a man is nothing but a hollowness, an emptiness, a meaninglessness, existence. Then you can do whatsoever you want with humanity and nobody will rebel. Nobody will have courage enough to rebel. Love gives courage. Love takes all fear away. And the oppressors depend on your fear. They create fear in you, 1,001 kinds of fear. You are surrounded by fears. Your whole psychology is full of fears. Deep down you are trembling. Only on the surface do you keep a certain facade. Otherwise, inside, there are layers and layers of fear. A man full of fear can only hate. Hate is a natural outcome of fear. A man full of fear is also full of anger, and a man full of fear is more against life than for life. Death seems to be a restful state for the fear-filled man. The fearful man is suicidal. He is life negative. Life seems to be dangerous to him because to live means you will have to love. How can you live? Just as the body needs breathing to live, the soul needs love to live, and love is utterly poisoned. By poisoning your love energy, they have created a split in you. They have made an enemy within you. They have divided you in two. They have created a civil war, and you are always in conflict. And in conflict, your energy is dissipated. Hence, your life does not have zestfulness, cheerfulness. It is not overflowing with energy. It is dull, insipid. It is unintelligent. Love sharpens intelligence. Fear dulls it. Who wants to be intelligent? Not those who are in power. How can they want... Oh, sorry, it says, who wants you to be intelligent? Not those in power. How can they want you to be intelligent? Because if you are intelligent, you will start seeing the whole strategy, their games. They want you to be stupid and mediocre. They certainly want you to be efficient as far as work is concerned, but not intelligent. Hence, humanity lives at the lowest, at the minimum of its potential. Scientific researchers say that the ordinary man uses only 5% of his potential intelligence in his whole life. The ordinary man, only 5%. What about the extraordinary? What about an Albert Einstein, a Mozart, a Beethoven? The researchers say that even those who are very talented don't use more than 10%, and those whom we call geniuses only use 15%. Think of a world where everybody is using 100% of his potential. Then the gods will be jealous of Earth. Then the gods would like to be born on Earth. Then the Earth will be a paradise, a super paradise. Right now, it's a hell. If man is left alone, unpoisoned, then love will be simple, very simple. There will be no problem. It will be just like water flowing downward, or vapor rising upward, trees blossoming, birds singing. It will be so natural and so spontaneous. But man is not left alone. As the child is born, the oppressors are ready to jump on him, to crush his energies. Our rice is done. The oppressors are ready to jump on him, to crush his energies, to distort them to such an extent, to distort them so deeply that the person will never become aware that he is living a false life, a pseudo-life, that he is not living as he was meant to live, as he was born to live, that he is living something synthetic, plastic, that this is not his real soul. That's why millions of people are in such misery, because they feel somewhere that they have been distracted, that they are not their own selves, that something has gone basically wrong. Love is simple if the child is allowed to grow, helped to grow, in natural ways. If the child is helped to be in harmony with nature and in harmony with himself, if the child is in every way supported, nourished, encouraged to be natural and to be himself, a light unto himself, then love is simple. One will be simply loving. Hate will almost be impossible because before you can hate somebody else, first you have to create the poison within yourself. You can give something to somebody only if you have it. You can hate only if you are full of hate. And to be full of hate is to suffer hell. To be full of hate is to be on fire. To be full of hate means you are wounding yourself. Before you can wound somebody else, you have to wound yourself. The other may not be wounded. It will depend on the other. But one thing is absolutely certain, that before you can hate, you have to go through through long suffering and misery. The other may not accept your hatred, may reject it. The other may be a Buddha. He may simply laugh at it. He may forgive you. He may not react. You may not be able to wound him if he is not ready to react. If you cannot disturb him, what can you do? You will feel impotent before him. So it is not necessarily so that the other is going to be wounded. But one thing is absolutely certain, that if you hate somebody, first you have to wound your own soul. In so many ways, you have to be so full of poison that you can throw poison on others. Hate is unnatural. Love is a state of health. Hate is a state of illness. Just like illness is unnatural. It happens only when you lose track of nature, when you are no longer in harmony with existence, no longer in harmony with your being, with your innermost core. Then you are ill, psychologically, spiritually ill. Hatred is only a symbol of illness, and love, one of health and wholeness and holiness. Love should be one of the most natural things, but it is not. On the contrary, it has become the most difficult thing, almost the impossible thing. Hate has become easy. You are trained. You are prepared for hate. To be a Hindu is to be full of hate for Mohammedans, for Christians, for Jews. To be a Christian is to be full of hate for other religions. To be a nationalist is to be full of hate for other nations. You know only one way of love. That is to hate others. You can show your love for your country only by hating other countries. And you can show your love for your church only by hating other churches. You are in a mess. These so-called religions go on talking about love, and all that they do in the world is create more and more hate. Christians talk about love, and they have been creating wars, crusades. Mohammedans talk about love, and they have been creating jihads, religious wars. Hindus talk about love, but you can look into their scriptures. They are full of hate for other religions. And we accept all this nonsense. And we accept it without any resistance because we have been conditioned to accept things. We have been taught about that this is how things are. And then you go on denying your own nature. Love has been poisoned, but not destroyed. The poison can be thrown out of your system. You can be cleansed. You can vomit all, OSHO. You can vomit all that the society has enforced upon you. You can drop all your beliefs and all your conditionings. You can be free. The society cannot keep you a slave forever if you decide to be free. It is, I can't see, I'm gonna turn around like this. It is time to drop out of all old patterns and start a new way of life, a natural way of life, a non-repressive way of life. A life not of renunciation, but of rejoicing. Hate will become more and more impossible. Hate is the polar opposite of love, in the sense that illness is the polar opposite of health. But you need not choose illness. Illness has a few advantages that health cannot have. Don't become attached to those advantages. Hate also has advantages that love cannot have. And you have to be very watchful. The ill person gets sympathy from everybody else. Nobody hurts him. Everybody remains careful what they say to him. He is so ill. He remains the focus, the center of everybody, the family, the friends. He becomes the central person. He becomes important. Now, if he becomes too much attached to this importance, to this ego fulfillment, he will never want to be healthy again. He himself will cling to illness. And psychologists say there are many people who are clinging to illnesses because of the advantages illnesses have. And they have invested in their illnesses for so long that they have completely forgotten that they are clinging to those illnesses. They are afraid if they become healthy, they will be nobody again. You teach that too. When a small child becomes ill, the whole family is so attentive. This is absolutely unscientific. When the child is ill, take care of his body, but don't pay too much attention. It is dangerous, because if illness and your attention become associated, which is bound to happen if it is repeated again and again, whenever the child is ill, he becomes the center of the whole family. Daddy comes and sits by his side and inquires about his health, and the doctor comes and the neighbors start coming, and friends inquire and people bring presents for him. Now he can become too much attached to all of this. It can be so nourishing to his ego that he may not like to be well again. And if this happens, then it is impossible to be healthy. No medicine can help now. The person has become decisively committed to illness. And that's what has happened to many people, the majority. When you hate, your ego is fulfilled. The ego can exist only if it hates, because in hating, you feel superior. In hating, you become separate. In hating, you become defined. In hating, you attain a certain identity. In love, the ego has to disappear. In love, you are no longer separate. Love helps you to dissolve with others. It is a meeting and a merger. If you are too much attached to the ego, then hate is easy and love is most difficult. Be alert, watchful. Hate is the shadow of ego. Love needs courage, great courage. It needs great courage because it needs the sacrifice of the ego. Only those who are ready to become nobodies are able to love. Only those who are ready to become nothing, utterly empty of themselves, are able to receive the gift of love from the beyond. And that's it. The next chapter is Take Yourself Out of the Crowd. And I have my beautiful handmade bookmarks. I've been making bookmarks. So I will keep this page for you. I'm on page 98. And that was so good. I know Rob fell asleep a little bit while I was reading, but it's okay. It's okay. He can watch it later. And you can too. I'm going to listen later.
Good. I didn't know I fell asleep.